this meeting of the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee meeting. Today is Tuesday, August 5th, and we are at City Hall. Our chairperson is attending remotely, and our vice chairperson is unable to make tonight's meeting. So I would be looking for someone to chair the meeting tonight. Mr. O'Reilly?
I would make a motion for our council president to take the seat.
All right, Mr. Giles or Mrs. Spiros, do you have a problem with that?
No.
All right, Mr. Varsho?
Okey-dokey. All right, so we are gonna, are there any potential conflicts of interest? I see none. Any citizens' comments? I see no citizens. The consent agenda, minutes of the June 17, 2025 meeting, bills and payroll, monthly position control report, personnel actions report, April Treasury report, and May Treasury report.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Giles. Second by Mr. O'Reilly to approve the consent agenda. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Number 6, we did not remove any of items from the consent agenda. Number 7, request to recommend council approval of agreement with Revise for website management presented by Tom Lokes, Communication Director. Mr. Lokes.
All right, thank you. Good evening. Our website contract agreement is up for renewal next month. This will be our third renewal with the company called Revise. It's our CMS provider since 2014. We have done 2 redesigns since that time. And with this agreement, we would also go under a new redesign, which is included in the cost. A little history of what we've been doing. We formed a team of about 5 to 8 city staff earlier in the process to review any concerns, questions, or changes with city staff. And then over the past really 2 years, I've looked at several different web companies and also provided a presentation to this team as well. And you'll see in your packet that I included some quotes from 3 additional website providers out there. Their services are great. They're really good, but they're very, very expensive. There's a wide range of expense you'll see, but we just cannot make that work under our current budgets. Just remember, our website's not just a web page. It's a place where citizens do business now more than ever, and a lot more than it was 5 years ago, especially with our online services that we are now offering more and more as we continue our services with our public. Just remember the website is the heart of our operations, where citizens, entrepreneurs, and staff go for all the detailed information about the city and services that are provided. It's also a place that we call a document center, where our agendas, minutes, packets, and video links are stored. This allows also for very good metadata, and metadata is meant for when people do searches in Google. Most people do searches, and if we don't have good way to put metadata in, then nothing comes up in the search. So this site does provide a way to put metadata in the back end of it, but that's something that has to be done on a consistent basis. We also use the site for links to, like, visit Marshfield, Mackey, and other important content that the department heads may want out there that are links for something like recycling was just one that was recently coming from the state. Just in reviewing the contract, I was able to lower the price by a little bit because we're a longtime customer. So over the next 5 years, if we decide to go with Revise, we'll save about $1,600. It's not a lot, but it's something. You'll also see in an additional expense that I mentioned here in my memo of $2,000 for a department development page design. It's a one-time cost. It's a template. Now, that's not part of this cost in the contract. That would be an additional cost. We would look to have that expense come out of the 235 or another budget. And at this point, I don't know if that can be part of this motion. So I'm just mentioning it's not part of the process. I'd like to do it because it's a good time to do it with redesign. And it would give us a chance to kind of have our police, fire, even Park and Rec get a little bit different look because of the nature of what they do. A little bit more here. If we get the agreement approved, I would create a Gantt chart, which is a timeline outlining the redesign steps, and we'll review and share ideas with all city staff and the communications committee. I'll be working with staff to ensure their platform meets their expectations because they are expected to make sure their content is up to date. I do help them if needed, so we kind of leave that up to that. We will definitely, when we go under a new redesign, is to make sure that it's ADA compliant, because you'll be hearing more of that from me as we get closer to 2027, because it is going to be a law that anything that's online from our government has to be compliant. So we want to make sure our website definitely is, and it is in the contract, so we can hold them accountable to that. So just with this said, I'm recommending that we go with an additional 5 years with Revise at $4,999 annually. The expense comes out of the IT technology budget, which is the general fund. We do have $5,395 budgeted in 2025 for the website, because that was what the cost was. So that is my recommendation to go forward with Revise for an additional 5 years.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Spiro, second by Mr. O'Reilly to approve Mr. Loke's presentation. Any questions or comments? I see none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Request from Councilmember O'Reilly under items for future agendas at the committee June 17th meeting to track hours worked by exempt employees. Presented by Mike O'Reilly, Councilmember District 9.
Good evening, thank you. Excuse me. I think I'll preface this right out of the gate with, this is not a gotcha request. It's not anything that's, I guess, trying to stress that there is something wrong, but the reasons I think it's important for our salaried staff to track time is, I guess council, we're tasked with a portion of the hiring process, a portion of the creation of new positions, the wages, the benefits, all these things that go along with it, but we don't have any information telling us how many hours are getting worked in these positions. I think it would definitely help with accountability and transparency, especially when you're dealing with jobs that the general public is basically being forced to pay for. I think it's an acknowledgement that in the event that someone wants to know how many hours are these positions putting in, that it would be there. I think it's definitely a plus for council to understand the hours that are getting put in. It would ultimately show us if not enough hours are getting worked in a position, or if too many hours are getting worked by another one. We've had issues with retainage. To be honest with you, I'm more concerned about that than I am about the underperformance in these positions. And I know we've talked in the past about how the reality of a salaried position is that you're hired to accomplish a task and not a certain amount of hours per week. But that really kind of solidifies the reasoning behind it, why I want to do this. We run into many situations over the last couple of years where we hear it's not completed yet, we're working on it, we're short-staffed. And I agree that the majority of that probably is due to short staffing and it's challenging. But if we're going to stand with the premise that you have to accomplish a task, we're not accomplishing that. I think it's just another tool for the council, who ultimately doesn't know a lot that's going on behind City Hall doors, to establish a comfort level or an understanding of what's going on, and I guess basically verify it. I know there's been some discussion about how this would be accomplished, and I have actually a gentleman I know that is an IT professional. He's worked with a Fortune 500 company for over 10 years, and I called him and asked him, what would it take to do something like this if our software or time for employees is not? He said, nothing. He said, that's very simple. He said, you can do it through Microsoft Office. He said, you could have it up and running within a day. So in my opinion, I just think that it's a smart thing to do. I think in a time where there's not a lot of faith in government, that having hours tracked and be able to show that to the public, if in the event that something comes up, or if there's an argument that a position shouldn't have been created, it's too much, or why aren't you creating another position? It gives us a way to document what we're dealing with. So with that, that's why I personally think that it would be a smart move for us to move forward with tracking this time. And I guess just entertain any kind of discussion that anybody would have. Do I need to make a motion on it, or can we have a discussion?
No, we can have discussion. It's the
Okay.
discretion of the committee. Ms. Spiros?
Thank you, Mike. I have a question, because when I seen this was on the agenda, I did bring this up and talk to somebody I know about it, and they were saying something about there's actually a law out there that says that we should track the amount of hours that salary people work anyway. Do you know anything about that, or does anybody know anything about that? And does that apply to us? They were kind of explaining the law to me, saying, you know, its purpose was, you know, really more for people who are putting in excessive amounts of hours, and the way that the law requires that they be paid. So does anybody know anything about that?
Sarah?
I don't know specifics about like any law or anything per se outside of FLSA. Part of just a little bit of prep that I did ahead of time was just to kind of reach out to, you know, peers and things like that. So I did reach out to over 100 municipalities, counties, and things like that, just to kind of get a feel for things like that. And part of also what I did is I just asked some questions from a legal standpoint. One of the things that was shared with me from our legal counsel was that we have to recognize the potential risk and concerns when you start treating exempt employees like non-exempt employees. There is a risk there, and I think that before we would make any decisions one way or another, whether to track or not to track, we would need to make sure that we understand from a legal standpoint what those risks might be. Just because I know, you know, and I've mentioned this a little bit before, that when you treat an exempt employee too much like an hourly non-exempt employee, there are some legal lawsuits and things like that that have been presented, and they've gone multiple different ways. But I think we would just want to make sure that we're like exploring all of those. There is, potential risk is what was shared with me. But you're not wrong. We do have capabilities, obviously, to track time because we already do it for hourly employees. But I definitely would say that is at least what was mentioned to me, is that before any decisions would be made, we would want that legal counsel to just kind of check us and make sure that we wouldn't be crossing any lines that we shouldn't be.
Mr. O'Reilly.
No, I appreciate the efforts. Did they share with you any of what those concerns might be that you could elaborate on? I'm surprised to hear that, being that I've talked to quite a few businesses in town, and from what I was told, I bet you over 90% of them track hours of all their employees, including salaried staff. So I guess I'd just be very interested in that. I hadn't heard that in the past. So, and I know there are exemptions, but if you don't fall under exemptions, you're still tracking the people that are not exempt. So
yeah,
I'd be interested in hearing that.
So of the groups that I contacted, it was mostly counties that responded back saying that they track salaried employees. And the reason why they do that is because they budgetarily are taking that time and basically putting it towards a variety of like budget items. So it's really to track time to like a budget item, less of to track and make sure people are working enough hours or not. Others that did track it were tracking it purely to look at the excess amount of time that people were putting in. So not necessarily the 40 hours that we expect employees to work, but really truly the additional that was over and above. And then what they were doing is many times allowing people to take professional time off for the excess hours that they were working, and it varied widely. It's not per se illegal or anything like that to track the time. That's not kind of what I'm hearing. More or less, what was shared with me was, when you treat an exempt employee like a non-exempt employee, when it comes to tracking time, then like, if there's a legal question about it in a lawsuit or something like that, there's just potential risk there. So it's just, how much of a potential risk that is. They didn't go into detail because I more or less just wanted a brief overview. But I think that's something that we could definitely dive into and things like that. And so I would say that the majority that did track only tracked, like I said, the excess above and beyond. Like for some it was 40, for some it was anything over 38, for some it was over 45, so it kind of varied, so.
Yeah, I think that would be definitely something we'd want to explore. I see the opportunity. It could be used in a lot of different ways. That being one of the major ones. Obviously, we've had a retainage issue, which could shine the light on a potential problem before we have someone leave. That's huge. You can lose a lot of history, a lot of background, and a very good employee that way. And it also the opposite side of it. It may shine some lights on it, but I think it's well worth investigating. And if we can get some kind of I don't know how we would approach that, if we're getting it from Attorney Wolfgram or if we're going outside, but I would like to see some kind of an analysis of what the risks potentially could be, if possible.
Mr. Barr.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to kind of elaborate on what Sarah said earlier about professional time or whatever, as exempt employees, people do not have comp time. They don't get comp time opportunities like hourly people do. But having said that, if you think about potential burnout, we want to make sure people aren't burning out. I periodically get requests from people and they say, hey, look, you know what I've been doing this last week? I was here lots of extra hours, meetings, I was here on Saturday working on the budget or whatever. Would it be possible for me to take next Friday afternoon off or next Monday morning off or whatever, coming back from a long weekend? And the answer is yes. I mean, we just kind of informally, not formally, but informally make sure that people have that opportunity if in fact they are working excessive hours.
Mr. O'Reilly.
Glad to hear that. And that's what I would expect to see. That's what we want. And we want to make sure that the employees are kept happy and that the work's getting done in a timely fashion. So like I said, there's nothing, this isn't a witch hunt, nothing like that. I just think it's a strong tool for the council to have. And I think, again, that it's accountability to the public. And I don't foresee there being some big news flash coming that, you know, Marshfield's people are working 10 hours a week or that they're putting in 80 hours a week, but it's just another tool. And with the tasks that we are responsible for here, I just always feel like I have no information to go off on this other than what I hear. Well, it just gives another tool. So.
Any more questions, comments, or discussion? Yeah, Mr. O'Reilly.
So if we're doing this, will you just bring this back and it would be an agenda item again, or how are we handling if you?
First, where are we at? Did we get a second and are we voting? Or?
No, we didn't have any motion. This is just discretion of the.
Oh, okay. I thought there was somebody started a
No.
motion. I mean, you can certainly direct us to come back, and I think Sarah made a good point of the fact we'd like to bring information about the potential legal ramifications and just, you know, put it on the next agenda kind of thing.
Or I could make a motion to approve it pending information from legal counsel for review at that time, and then move forward from there.
We just. I think we should. Okay, hang on. What'd you say, Ms. Fearos?
I said second.
Okay, so, Mr. O'Reilly, you want to repeat your,
I'm sorry, but your motion is to bring it back here, looking at the legal, not to take it to council next Tuesday, or is it to take it to council next Tuesday with us supposed to bring some sort of a report prior to that, or what?
Do we know how long it would take to get analysis of this? I mean, I can't imagine it would be an extended amount of time, would it?
I
Are
know.
we doing it in-house, or is that what your thought is? With
No, I mean, yes, in a sense that we would probably use our employment law group since they specialize in all of this anyways. So it's well on their radar. So from them, I can get kind of the pros and cons of doing it, as well as like any legal risks or anything like that. I'm hopeful that I could get that by next Tuesday. Would you want that, or would you want me just to bring it to the next finance budget?
we can just bring it to the next finance, but if that's, I think it's safer doing it that way than rush everything.
I agree.
So,
That way, if you ultimately recommend it for approval and it goes on consent for the council, it's truly consent where you're expecting it to likely just be without discussion.
Sounds good.
yeah, I agree with that as well, because of the fact that we will have a fifth member here in 2 weeks for the next meeting. So I'd rather see it as an agenda item for the next finance budget personnel meeting.
Can I just ask clarifying? I don't really know what our motion is right now.
The motion was to bring it back with legal analysis, but I don't know that we can cancel that motion if that's possible, just because it sounds like we're going to bring it back for another agenda item. Rather, why approve it now if?
So you're withdrawing your motion?
Yes.
And Mrs. Spiros is the second. Do you agree with that?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll bring it back on the 19th.
all right. Let's see here, number 9, request from Councilmember Coran under items for future agendas at the committee's June 17th meeting for a report on staff turnover in the last 5 years, presented by Sarah Dreschel, Human Resource Director.
Thank you. So in the packets, I broke down each year from 2020 through our current year, which is halfway through. So I provided a little bit of background. I had done like a brief rundown, I believe, in 2022 of kind of where we were at and things like that. So I kind of took that information and then I just made sure that I covered it for all 5 of those years. So just as a recap, turnover rate is, dependent on the average number of employees over the course of, a period of time. And then it's basically the number of terminations, you divide that by the average number of employees for that time period, and then you get your percentage. So to get the average employees, I basically took the starting head count at the start of the year and then the ending head count at the end of the year. And then I divided that out so that we had a basic average number across the year. So I gave kind of a little bit of an example for 2020. And then basically you'll see each year broken out. So one of the things to note, I did a little bit of overall research, and for municipalities, generally speaking, in Wisconsin, turnover rate is anywhere between about 8% and 12% each year. And so when we look at each year, we can kind of keep that in our minds that typically we're seeing anywhere between that 8 and 12%. So when we look at 2020, for example, we did have, 15 terminations. One thing to note is, anytime you have turnover, you want to look at the reasons. So we do track that to a certain extent. So if it's a retirement, it truly is just, retiring. New job is they're going to a new job, but then personal is like kind of a combination if they didn't really share with us the exact reason why they're leaving, or it's maybe multiple things. So sometimes personal is just they just didn't want to share. We can probably assume it's for a different job, but we're not sure. It could be also moving, things like that. So when we're looking at turnover for 2020, you can kind of see, and actually now I'm realizing I didn't put the turnover rate on here for each year, did I?
On the last page you did.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So for 2020, we were looking at 7.61%. It did jump up for 2021 and 2022. And then we have started to see a decline from that. This year, again, it's a little tough to take into account what's really happening in 2025 because we're only halfway through the year, but it is fairly low for this year so far. But overall, you can kind of see, each department per year where there's, more turnover or less turnover. But I thought it was pretty interesting in a good way that for the most part, we are staying within that 8 to 12% on average. Again, I think the one thing that I was taking into account as well is, it's exciting when people do retire. And so when we're looking at these numbers, if we were truly to take out, let's say, retirements, which is a good thing for the employee, you would see pretty much each year we do have a significant amount of retirements in general. So just some food for thought, but I'm happy to answer any questions about anything that you might have with regard to turnover.
Mrs. Spiros.
Thank you, Sarah. This is a really detailed and well done report.
Thank you.
The only thing that I have to say is retirement. Obviously, yeah, that's a great thing for employees, but my concern that I have noticed, and especially when we're looking at our administrative turnover, yeah, they've retired from the city, but then they went and taken another job. Mm-hmm. So I almost don't count that as a true retirement. It's not like they're retiring to say, yeah, we're done in life and we're just going to go up and spend a bunch of time with our grandkids. That's not what's happening. They're leaving us to find another job. And that, I think, is a little bit concerning. I think it's the thing that's affected us the most. I think it's been the thing that's been the most detrimental and the hardest people to replace. And we're still sitting with open positions that have been vacant now for several years.
Mhm.
So it sort of skews the data, in my opinion. So I think that's part of why we wanted to take a look at this. And that doesn't really provide much answer as to why, you know, that level of employee is leaving and taking other jobs.
Gotcha.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. O'Reilly.
Yeah, I just have one more comment, and I would, just asking if anybody knows off the top of their head what we have for open positions right now. Because these positions that are open, figuring them into an average is not really telling the story, I guess. These numbers, again, from kind of the same perspective that Ms. Spiros had brought up, when we have long-term empty spots, for one, it's skewing the numbers. We're just not even filling them. And to top it off, you know, it's gotten to the point where we're balancing our budget off of the money that is being saved on these. Although I think the report was good, I think there's a lot of things that are not really reflected in there that do need to be addressed. So thank you for the report. Rebecca said it right. It does, and it's easy to understand and digest. But like I said, I think there's a lot more to the story than this is able to tell.
Oh, Sarah.
So just I can recap what we have for open positions right now. That are budgeted. So, well, do you want both? I can give you both. So for not budgeted but open positions, we have an administrative associate position. It was a part-time position in the clerk's office. We had the community development director position, not budgeted. That would be a full-time person. We have a planner position that was partially opened, and that's the one that we're actively searching for right now with using the two agencies. Then we had two firefighter paramedics. Those are open positions that can be filled in January. Otherwise, they're full right now with the other positions. And then we have I think we're full in the library, right? Okay. And then we have activities coordinator position in Parks and Recreation. That one is the one that we adjusted and changed and kind of provided those duties to current employees. So it's budgeted but not really open. And then let me look and see. I believe then we have the Public Works Director position that is open but filled with acting. And then we have Civil Engineer 1 that was partially budgeted for open, and we're actively looking. And then we have one equipment operator position in the street department that is vacant. And we're running interviews on Thursday for that position. And then one that is vacant that was not budgeted for this year. And that's all. Mm-hmm.
Any more questions or comments for Sarah? All right. Suggested items for future agendas. All right. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. O'Reilly, second by Mr. Giles. All in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.